So we look at the strength of the utility. It's really around the strength of the network. It's not looking to just address a single node. Data is sourced and formatted in multiple ways, which is leading to systemic risk across the market as a whole. And each node, not just each internal system, but each node in that network is then a potential point of failure or point of reconciliation across organisations. And we feel that the utility addresses these issues because it's looking to provide market-wide information, not just address the issues of one particular organisation. In terms of the cost savings, again we're looking at cost per trade here. This isn't necessarily data management cost per se, but it's the effect of bad data. If we're looking at cost per trade, current state bar chart on the left, utility and future state on the right. Substantial savings that we've seen with our organisations that we've worked with. And then in terms of how to get there, again we touched on this within the panel discussion. A lot of organisations are at various stages of a maturity model as to how they manage reference data. In terms of the bottom levels here, non-existent processes, ad hoc approach to the managing of data. A lot of organisations will want to go through those internally. A lot of organisations should go through those internally and then look to the utility as the next phase of cost saving. Some organisations, however, can undoubtedly benefit from just moving straight to that utility approach and getting the benefits of a global operating model, getting the benefits of a leading edge technology platform, and we can help them move wherever you are in that maturity model. And finally, we think probably the timing is right, a perfect storm of drivers with regard to the markets we've seen in the last 18 months or so. The cost requirements have made organisations look substantially internally as to what is genuinely differentiation and what is commodity. We've seen increased regulatory oversight and pressure on this area in terms of specifically, I guess, around the OTC market, but markets in general and the impact from a systemic risk perspective. And also increased transparency and opaqueness where different codification structures, different symbology means getting at the data has just been difficult. Any number of organisations have probably spent weeks, maybe even months, unpicking some of their positions with Lehman's just purely because of the different codification and symbology. So we feel that the time is right for this type of approach. People have looked at utilities in the past, but not necessarily had the drivers in place that we feel are there today to make something like this the next wave of outsourcing. Thank you. Thanks, Frank.
Jan Coughlin, I'm Joan. I'm assuming that you're covering all segments of reference data, client and market data. With regards to client data, how do you overcome the client confidentiality issues of, if the company has moved to an outsourcing, it's their own individual staff that are processing that data, and obviously moving to a utility function, how do you overcome the client confidentiality because you haven't got a direct relationship with the end client?
There are lots of those sort of areas where and client confidentiality, both in terms of the data itself, so it has to be a multi-tenanted system, so their data is held securely. The source is held, so which client sources that data, so we do give clients the option to make certain data shareable across the community because of the revenue share approach that I touched on earlier. But we do find a lot of activities, certain activities, let's say, still do stay in-house, and client relationship management, or where an organisation wants that direct liaison with their ultimate client, does stay in-house, and the utility is just taking on some of the more mundane aspects, let's say, of processing, what that organisation regards as critical. So ultimately, there's a choice in how you approach that deployment. If you wanted to just use this as a technology platform, which is that software as a service approach, the full solution is that full-blown utility, where, and I don't think the market is necessarily ready for that yet, where there could be efficiencies and benefits, but you've got to get over some of those client confidentiality and data confidentiality issue. To move slightly off, reconciliations is a great example. We have a reconciliations utility. If the market allowed, we could use that as a reconciliations clearinghouse, rather than send reconciliations back to the individual banks' investigations teams to then talk back to each other about how they clear those reconciling items. There's no reason I can't technically clear those reconciling items within the utility, other than the data privacy that people want around.
Hi, John Randalls from Polarlake. The question I have is not something that you mentioned, was the whole issue of consequential losses and liabilities.
Yeah.
I don't mean to throw a nasty one at the end of it, but I just asked that.
The utility isn't going to look to provide that liability no more than data vendors do today in terms of the liability around the data that's provided. So that liability still stays with the organisation. Obviously, there are various SLAs in place where we can measure the quality that we're bringing, and that quality should improve over time. That quality should start out higher in the first place because it's a standardised approach that has been tried and tested over time. So the quality of the data or the quality of the service that we're providing, we would argue, is higher, but it doesn't change the approach from the liability standpoint.
Okay, thank you, John.